If you want to know who actually runs a company, watch who gets to interrupt the room when the money is hovering above the table. At 8:12 a.m., the money was not even in the building yet. It was in the air over a walnut conference table on the 42nd floor of North Meridian Partners. The boardroom smelled like lemon polish, cold ventilation, and the metallic bite of people pretending they are fearless. My name is Maya Lane. I am the Senior Director of Alliance Strategy. For 9 months, I had been building the Halcyon Accord, an acquisition so large the draft contract had its own table of contents. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., Gideon Klein and his advisors would sit here to close. Gideon did not sign things. He permitted things to happen. I was reviewing the final risk schedule on my tablet when the door opened with the confidence of a person who has never had to earn access. Brielle Hartman walked in. White suit, sharp heels, new badge shine. 24 years old and newly installed as Chief of Staff to the Vice President of Operations, which was a long way of saying she was the daughter of the Vice President of Operations. She did not look at the table. She looked at my blazer like the fabric had insulted her family. She smiled. "You look tacky. You really wore that ugly suit to this meeting?" Silence hit the room. Outside the glass wall, analysts stopped typing. My blazer was charcoal, tailored, and quiet. It had walked me through Seoul, Zurich, and a courtroom hallway where someone tried to bully me with a handshake. "Good morning, Brielle," I said. "This is not a styling session. I am finalizing the Halcyon Accord." She lifted a spiral-bound employee guide. Page 40, Client-Facing Attire Standards. Standard buttons only. That bag is distressed. We do not do distressed here. I stared at the handbook, then at her. "The client arrives tomorrow." "And I am preventing embarrassment," she said, stepping closer. Her perfume was jasmine and panic. "If you cannot follow basic rules, how can we trust you with our future?" There was the motive, not buttons, control. She wanted a trophy on day one, and I looked like the easiest headline. I kept my voice calm. "No." Her eyebrows jumped. "Excuse me?" "No," I repeated. "I will not leave. I will not change. I will not apologize to human resources because you are bored." Her smile cracked. "You are insubordinate." "I am working," I said, and turned back to my tablet. She made a sound, high and sharp. "You are fired." The words landed like a cheap gavel. I faced her again. "You do not have authority to terminate me." "I have authority by proxy," she snapped. "My father runs operations. Pack your things. Security will escort you out." I looked past her at the room. Everyone had the same expression, fear with a side of relief that it was not them. Then I felt relief too. "Okay," I said. Brielle blinked. She expected pleading. She got compliance. "Okay," she echoed. "Standards matter," I said, snapping my tablet cover shut. "You are right. I will pack. Good luck tomorrow." Her mouth opened. "What do you mean, good luck?" I walked out, heels steady on the carpet. Behind me, I could feel her staring, trying to understand why victory felt so hollow. She did not know the Halcyon Accord was not a file on a server. It was a living negotiation held together by relationships, side assurances, and 3 handwritten pages in my own shorthand. And I was leaving with the only map. My office was not minimalist. My desk was a controlled disaster. Binders, legal pads, color tabs, and a brass card box that held private numbers like tiny weapons. I packed slowly. Rushing looks guilty, and I was not guilty of anything except being competent in a building that preferred obedient. My assistant, Nia, hovered in the doorway, pale. "Maya, did she really do it?" "Yes," I said. "And you are going to do one thing for me." Her eyes widened. "Anything." "Send one email," I said. "To legal, to finance, to the alliance team. Subject line, custodian removed. Body, I was terminated today by Brielle Hartman. I am no longer authorized to represent North Meridian on the Halcyon Accord. Nia swallowed. That will start a fire. It will start the correct fire, I said. I opened the bottom drawer and took the real asset, a leather folio labeled Halcyon in my handwriting. It held 3 pages of side assurances, the kind that never live on servers. One clause about retention bonuses, one about a legacy parcel in Driftwood County that Gideon wanted preserved, one about arbitration that kept everyone out of court and out of headlines. I slid the folio into my tote and left the official binders on my desk, centered, neat, like an accusation. 2 security guards waited in the hall because Brielle demanded theater. One of them, Raoul, gave me an apologetic nod. He did not check my bag. He knew North Meridian would be lucky if I only took my own silence. Brielle stood by the elevator, arms crossed. "Make sure she does not steal anything," she snapped. I looked at her. "You fired the person who knew what was valuable." In the elevator, she leaned in. "You should have just changed. This is what happens when people cannot follow culture." I smiled. This is what happens when people confuse culture with control. The doors closed on her face. I walked 3 blocks to a quiet cafe, ordered an espresso, and turned my phone off. I let the building sit with its choice for a few hours. When I turned the phone back on that evening, it erupted. Calls from legal, calls from finance, calls from the chief executive, a text from Nia. They are asking who approved the termination. Brielle locked herself in a conference room. I did not reply. I went home. In my apartment, I opened a small locked box in my desk. Inside was one number on plain paper, no logo. Gideon Klein had given it to me after a brutal negotiation, with one warning: use only if the room is on fire. The room was on fire. I dialed. He answered on the second ring. "Klein." "It is Maya Lane," I said. A pause. "Signing is tomorrow." "Not anymore," I said. "I was terminated today. Officially. I am no longer authorized to speak for North Meridian." Silence, then a low exhale. "Who was foolish enough?" "Brielle Hartman," I said. "She believes my blazer is a threat to excellence." He let out a dry sound. "What do you want, Maya?" "I want you informed," I said. "The side assurances are not on their servers." "I know," he said. "That is why you kept them." "And I kept them for the deal," I said. "Not for them." Another pause. "Meet me tomorrow. 8 o'clock. Lumen Hotel. Private dining." "You are not meeting them," I asked. "I am meeting you," he said. "They will hear my answer when the room goes quiet." I hung up and stared at the folio on my table. I had crossed a line that would make me unwelcome in that tower. Good. Some towers deserve emptier floors. The Lumen Hotel served breakfast with the kind of quiet precision that makes you lower your voice without being told. Gideon Klein sat in a corner booth, immaculate in a navy suit, eyes that had seen every bluff in the market. He did not stand when I arrived. The room adjusted to him. "Maya," he said. "Gideon," I replied. He opened with the only question that mattered. "Did you take anything that belongs to North Meridian?" "I took my notes," I said. "North Meridian never owned my brain." A faint flicker of amusement crossed his face. "Good." He set a thin folder on the table. "They called me last night." "Unfortunate transition," I guessed. He nodded. "And please ignore the junior employee." I took a sip of tea. "They will call her a junior employee until they need her to be a shield." Gideon tapped the folder. "The Halcyon Accord requires trust. Your trust. Without your side assurances, my board walks. Without your coordination, the retention package collapses. Without the Driftwood County clause, my family office walks." I kept my voice neutral. "So you will delay." "I do not delay," he said. "I redirect." He slid the folder toward me. Inside was a contract, already drafted, already ruthless in its clarity. Director of Integration Strategy, Klein Meridian Holdings. Compensation more than North Meridian had ever paid me. Equity. Autonomy. One line that made my mouth go dry. Authority to select counsel and advisors at my discretion. You hired me, I said. I am offering you a seat, he corrected. North Meridian can keep its handbook. I read the final paragraph. It included confidentiality carve-outs for legal defense and regulatory reporting. Gideon did not just want me effective, he wanted me protected. I looked up. What do you want in return? Gideon leaned in. I am still scheduled to meet North Meridian at 9 o'clock. I will attend, but I will not sign. I want to see who thinks they can lie to my face. He paused. You will be in the lobby. I will be visible, I said. I want their panic to have a target, he replied. Panic is honest. I signed. The pen felt heavy with finality. As we stood to leave, Gideon added one more detail, almost casual. Their draft includes a key personnel disclosure clause. If they concealed your termination, the exclusivity window collapses. That is not my rule, that is their rule. Outside, the morning air was sharp. Gideon walked toward the North Meridian Tower like he owned the sidewalk. I crossed the street to a coffee shop and took a seat where I could be seen through the lobby windows. Brielle was in the lobby, pacing near the security desk, rehearsing confidence for a client she had never met. She pointed at a receptionist, then at an elevator, then at the ceiling as if gravity was not cooperating. She looked out the window. First a scan, then a lock. Even through glass, I saw the moment her stomach dropped. She grabbed her phone and dialed. My phone stayed silent. I had blocked her number before sunrise. Brielle pressed her palm to the glass like she could push the world back into the shape she wanted. She turned, shouting at the receptionist again, then whirled toward the elevators. At 9:03 a.m., she sprinted inside the building, suit flaring behind her like a warning label. I finished my coffee slowly and stood. The truth was already inside the tower. I was just the reminder about to walk through the revolving doors. The North Meridian lobby was designed to intimidate. 3 stories of stone, a waterfall that sounded like money, and acoustics that made every footstep feel like a verdict. I entered at 9:20 a.m., exactly as Gideon instructed. I did not rush. People who rush look like they need permission. Gideon Klein stood near the security gates with the chief financial officer and the general counsel. Both men wore smiles so tight they looked painful. Brielle stood between them, waving her arms, trying to control the air. I stopped at a polite distance, close enough to hear, far enough to watch. Brielle was mid-lie. Maya Lane is unavailable due to a sudden medical emergency, severe exhaustion. She briefed me fully on the halcyon accord, and I am prepared to proceed. Gideon did not blink. In the hospital, he repeated flat. Yes, Brielle said, nodding too fast. The chief financial officer glanced sideways, confused. He had not been told that his biggest deal required a fake ambulance. Gideon reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, tapped once, then looked up. That is strange, he said. She just texted me. Brielle froze so fast she looked like a paused video. Gideon scanned the lobby. His eyes landed on me. He nodded once, like calling a witness. Brielle followed his gaze. When she saw me standing there, healthy, composed, holding my tote, the color drained from her face. She is lying, Brielle blurted, pointing at me. I fired her. The chief financial officer turned on her. You did what? Brielle lifted her handbook like a shield. She violated dress code, standard buttons, distressed bag. It is policy. Gideon laughed. It was not warm. You fired the architect of a multi-billion-dollar accord over buttons. The general counsel stepped in. Mr. Klein, we can correct this. We can reinstate Maya with an executive package. Gideon raised one hand. No. He turned to the chief financial officer. Is she authorized to speak for this firm? The chief financial officer swallowed. No. Her termination was not approved by the board. Gideon nodded. Then I have no counterparty I trust. Brielle lunged forward, desperate. You cannot walk away. We have a term sheet. Term sheets depend on good faith, Gideon said. You demonstrated none. He turned toward the revolving doors. The chief financial officer stepped after him. Please, we can fix this. Gideon stopped long enough to let the truth land. You cannot fix judgment. He left. The revolving door swallowed him. The lobby erupted. The chief financial officer shouted at Brielle. The general counsel demanded to know who approved anything. Brielle screamed that she was protecting culture. Nobody listened. Then the chief financial officer turned to me, breathing hard. Maya, name your number. We need you to call him. I looked at him the way I look at a contract with a hidden trap. I cannot. Why not? He demanded. Because I am not yours anymore, I said. I reached into my tote and pulled out a cream envelope. I let him see just enough. Klein Meridian Holdings. Offer letter. Signature block. Mine. His face fell. You are working for him. I am working for myself, I corrected. He is simply paying for the privilege. Brielle stared at me, trembling, like she had finally discovered consequences are physical objects. I leaned closer to her, voice quiet. You wanted a handbook win. Congratulations. You followed policy perfectly. Her lips quivered. This is your fault. No, I said. This is your syllabus. I walked out into the rain, leaving the waterfall, the marble, and the panic behind me. In my pocket, my phone buzzed with a message from Gideon. 2 words. Next move. North Meridian spent the next 48 hours doing what panicked institutions always do, drafting emails instead of fixing the cause. By closing bell, their stock was down 11%, and investors started asking sharp questions on live television. By midnight, the chief executive sent a memo praising resilience, which is corporate for please do not ask who set the building on fire. The next morning, the chair of the board called. Maya, the chair said, voice strained. We need to speak. You should speak to Brielle, I said. She reads policy. The board did not authorize your termination, the chair said. We are prepared to correct the record. Name your terms. Correction is not restitution, I said. We can reinstate you. Title, bonus, equity. We will remove Brielle. We will remove her father, the chair promised, as if my dignity was a line item. You cannot reinstate trust, I said. You outsourced that yesterday. A pause. Gideon Klein is demanding a new price. I smiled. He does not delay. He redirects. The chair went quiet, and I could hear papers shuffling, people whispering. What does he want? The chair asked. He wants what you taught him you are worth, I said. I ended the call and texted Gideon. They will beg. Let them. At 9:30 a.m., I sat in a new conference room at Klein Meridian. Gideon paced once, then stopped. I will offer them an asset purchase, he said. Not a partnership, a purchase. 35 cents on the dollar, I said. Gideon raised an eyebrow. Generous. 30, I corrected. They lied to you and fired the operator. That is a discount on credibility. He nodded. 30. The offer went out with a hard deadline and conditions: executive resignations, independent oversight, and a public retraction of the lie about my medical emergency. North Meridian tried to soften it with public relations language, then realized public relations does not reopen a locked door. By afternoon, the vice president of operations resigned for personal reasons, which is public relations for we threw him off the ship before the sharks arrived. My attorney called to confirm the next step: wrongful termination, defamation risk, retaliation. It was not revenge for me. It was gravity for them. At 4:55 p.m., 5 minutes before the deadline, North Meridian accepted Gideon offer. The Halcyon Accord died. The Halcyon assets transferred. The tower kept its waterfall, but it lost the future it bragged about. In the weeks after, I watched the collapse from a safe distance. North Meridian held a televised town hall where leaders promised transparency while reading from a teleprompter. They renamed the Alliance floor something cheerful, like Integrity Hub, and then immediately asked everyone to stop discussing the lawsuit because it hurt morale. Nia kept me updated with quiet, careful messages. They are making people do new training modules, she wrote. One is called Respectful Communication. People are taking it while whispering about who will resign next. 2 weeks later, Brielle was gone. Not reassigned. Gone. Her handbook did not include a chapter on consequences. On a Friday evening, Gideon handed me the final closing page, signed and stamped. You did well, he said. I did my job, I replied. He nodded. That is why you are here. People who do their job quietly are priceless. I bought a new blazer that weekend. Not because I had to, because I could, and because somewhere in a drawer, a spiral-bound handbook was getting dustier by the minute, which felt like justice with a spine.